Hello, everybody. I'm hoping that gave you a bit of time to join the conversation. This is our first session of the Mindful Drinking Festival this October. Some of you may have been with us last year in January 2020. I don't know where the years are at the moment. I don't know anybody else. We've just all been discussing different lockdowns, which of course is the topic of the moment. But we're really glad to have you here, whether you're watching live or you're watching again. Do make sure that you have some conversations on our Telegram channel for this festival. So this is our first session, and we've got a really, really great panel who I'm going to get them to introduce themselves to you shortly, because they're the best people to do it, not because I've forgotten anybody's names at all. But also just to let you know, you can ask questions in the chat function on here, and I will pick them up as we go along. So don't feel backward at coming forward. Use the chat, ask questions, and let us know anything that you want us to put to the panel. Now, this evening's topic is all about planning for a month off drinking. For me, this is really important. And when I gave up drinking, which is now 9.5 years ago, I realised that the reason why I hadn't succeeded any time before was because I just thought if I said it, things would happen. And actually, the more I planned, the more successful it was going to be. And I cannot tell you how boring it is to talk about planning, but it is absolutely essential in changing your drinking. And so if you're planning for a month off, then we've got some advice for you. So what I'm going to do is ask the panel to each introduce themselves, but also to share their one killer tip to start off this session. So let's start with you, Scott, from This Naked Mind.
Awesome. Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Scott Pinyard. I'm the head coach at This Naked Mind. We help people change their relationship with alcohol, whatever that might mean for them. And one of the things we do is we regularly run 30-day challenges. So I have a huge list of tips for getting ready for a break. But the one that really stands out for me, and this is one I hear over and over that people regret, and it sounds a little bit silly at first, is to take a selfie. So every time we run one of these experiments, people are like, wow, I feel so much better. And they start to notice they look better. And I always hear regrets from people like, I wish I had a picture on day 1 versus day 30. So that is something that is so often overlooked, that if you're going to do, this month, then take a selfie like today, like now, while you're watching. You will thank me for it at the end of your 30 days.
Absolutely. And actually really quickly in changing my drinking, I noticed it in my face, it sort of shrunk really quickly. And so,
Yes.
and that was me thinking I was, looking all right all along, and no. Rhian, say who you are and where you're from and your killer tip.
Yeah, I'm Rhian. I'm a sober coach at In My Sober Skin. So I'm a recovering alcoholic. I'm 18 months sober now. So my tip is get an accountability app on your phone. It sounds stupid, and when I say it to the women that I work with, I say get an app so that you can see your days ticking off as you're going through the month. And they go, oh well, that's not going to be any use. But honestly, when you wake up in the morning and you see an extra tick on that little app, you think, yes, another day. And if anything, when you're having a craving and you're thinking in the evening, oh my gosh, it's Friday night, I really want to have a glass of wine, the thought of putting that timer back to 0 could be enough to make you think, no, it's all right. I'll leave it. I want to get another tick on it. So that's my number 1 tip.
Oh, so that's the joy of counting, which we can probably come back to in a bit. Chris, tell us who you are, where you're from, and what your top tip is.
Hi, my name is Chris Marshall. I'm the owner and founder of Sands Bar, an alcohol-free space based here in Austin, Texas, but we do pop-up tours across the North America. And my tip is reframe this time of not drinking. It's not that you're not drinking, focus on what you're getting to do. You're able to be more present, be more aware. You're able to be with your friends in ways that you've never been before. You're able to watch sports and actually finish the whole game. Like that, like there's so many things that you're able to do when you're not drinking, as opposed to focusing on what you're not doing, because I feel like that's always a losing proposition. So focus on what you're gaining, not what you're losing.
Cool. Lindsey.
Hi, I'm Lindsey. I'm a registered nutritional therapist. My practice is called Recovery Nutrition, and I work mainly with women who are midlife women who have become a bit too dependent on alcohol. I'm 6 years sober myself, and my top tip is obviously food related, and I would say just don't let yourself get hungry. Always carry around a bag of nuts or something like that, something that's high in protein, something that's high in fat, because it's when that hunger kicks in that the cravings start to kick in.
There's a really interesting thing I heard, Lindsey, you might be able to tell me, which is that our brains are triggered the same way, whether we need liquids or food, and often we mistake that cue. And so, I mean, I always drank when I was hungry, and what I should have done was eaten, right? So yeah, it's maybe you need just fluids when you feel hungry.
Depends on the fluid, yeah.
Yes, just not alcoholic ones. Ruari.
Find the unmute button. Whew. Sweating. So I'm Ruari Fairburns. I am the co-founder of 1 Year No Beer, which is a challenge to help people change their relationship with alcohol. And I would say that my top tip, great, everything. I love everything that's said so far. I'm just going to add into here, load up on alcohol-free alternatives. The amazing power of alcohol-free alternatives to help you change through neuroplasticity, the way your brain seeks that reward and is actually getting all of the psychology, but none of the alcohol. Brilliant. Load up on them.
And actually, as a behaviour change technique, it's substitution, and it's a really good technique. So what I'm hearing are some really interesting themes coming through. First of all, some stuff about where you want to be. And Chris, you touched on this first of all, which is the idea of what you want to be in terms of being more present, or what you want from your life. And I wonder if that's something that we could explore a little bit, which is, how much is changing your drinking about, really focusing and hunkering down on taking out alcohol from your diet and from your life, or how much is it about projecting forward into the person you want to be? Ruari, you've worked with loads and loads of people like we have on your challenges. How much does getting people to think about the life they want to lead, who they are, where they want to be as part of their journey?
Absolutely critical. I mean, our program is entirely based and steeped in positive psychology, and that's like a great basis of positive psychology is instead of looking back, like exactly as Chris mentioned, nothing to give up, everything to gain is the core point about what we do. So that's really in the early parts of our challenge, for instance, writing down your reasons why do you want to do this, but also getting really clear on that vision of who it is you want to be. What is it you want to achieve? Why are you trying to do this for yourself? Visualizing with it, creating affirmations around it, putting those affirmations up in front of where you brush your teeth every day and reading it every day. Like, sorry, the science says that stuff works. So they're big tools. You may as well use them. They're so easy to and simple to create. So yeah, I would highly advocate for anyone thinking about a month off as well as draw out that picture, draw it out in absolute vividness. The more vivid you can be, write it down. What is it? What is the reason why you're trying to do this? Create some affirmations around it, read them every day.
So that begs the question, Ruari, who is it that you want to be when you grow up?
That's easy. I'm an amazing husband and father. I'm a great leader. I'm a catalyst for positive global change. I'm congruent and I lead by example. I'm getting better every day in every way. The more lives I change, the more wealthy I become, and I have all the time in the world.
Are you actually reading affirmations off of a notice board in front of you now? Because I can see your eyes scanning.
Yeah.
Yes, they're also there. They're there. They're in the downstairs toilet. And they're in the upstairs bathroom, and I read them every day.
Man, you're surrounded by quotes. But that's very different to who you were, isn't it? Because when you first started, tell us a little bit about that.
Well, when I first started trying to change my relationship with alcohol, I was an oil broker in London, and in the city, completely surrounded by booze. It was part of my job. My boss had told me if I stopped drinking, I was committing commercial suicide. I spent the last 12 years being super focused on becoming the #1 broker at the world's largest oil brokerage. And so I was caught in this dichotomy of, do I still want that for my life? Because that's been my vision for a long time. Or do I want to try and do this other thing over here, which doesn't sound cool? It sounds like I'm going to lose all my friends. I don't think my wife is going to love me. I don't really know what the benefits are. And it was like this scary chasm. And for some bizarre reason, I took the leap. And in taking the leap, it was like, wow, that's when all the transformation happened for me. And, the transformation was enormous, physical health, mental health. I've suffered from ADHD, bouts of depression. I had suicide when I was 14 years old. I've struggled with my own mental health. And yet this stopped those huge yin and yangs. It created more of a calm person, able to deal with my kids easier and just stomach life, all of that. So I looked at this and said, well, hang on a minute. Everything I thought about not drinking was wrong. And I tried in the beginning to sort of evangelize and convince people. And the wall went up. They were like, I just don't want to hear it, right? I'm in the matrix. What are you talking about? Booze is the best thing in the world. It helps me get success, happiness, laid, whatever it is. They're totally in the matrix. So the whole evangelizing or even trying to convince people didn't work. So that's why we were like, hang on a minute, let's create a challenge. Let's make it like a Tough Mudder or a Spartan or something like that. Something that's cool. Go to the pub with the lads. And yes, we did aim at the lads to begin with. Down with the lads and be like, hey, I'm doing this challenge. Why don't you come and do it with me? It's awesome. And we'll all do it together, rather than it being this hidden away, shameful thing that you quietly have to eke out a month where you avoid your whole social circle, you cancel your friends, and then you count down to the first of the month in minutes so that you can have a drink again. No, nothing like that. Let's totally flip this on its head. And yeah, that's ultimately where 1 year no beer came from. And I know that we're very similar, and across us, this Naked Mind, Club Soda, you guys, the work that we're all doing here, we're trying to totally flip this conversation around, right? And really encourage people and let people know that actually this is the best thing to be doing, changing your relationship with alcohol.
I love it, really, because actually our backgrounds have all shaped all the communities that we've built, and for all of us. And so, we are similar in some ways, but you're like, let's make this a challenge. And I'm like, well, I'm a liberal, and it's up to people to decide their own path and their own way. And I'm not going to set any goals for people. People have got to set their goals for themselves, because I use the word could, not should, and and my politics ekes out of everything we do at Club Soda. It's hilarious. So anyway, so there are differences, but also lots of similarities. Rhian, I know less about your story. Do you want to share your story and a bit about, what that means around where you think you've got to?
Yeah, of course. So like I said, I've been sober for 18 months now. So I got to the point where I was drinking about 5 or 6 nights a week. I drink about 1 and a bit bottles of wine, something like that, every night. Functioning absolutely normally. Well, what I thought was normal. No one knew that I drank at the level that I did, apart from my husband, but no one knew. It got to the point where over the last couple of months where I was drinking, I slowly started to hide a bit of what I was drinking. So I'd buy, as well as a bottle of wine, I'd buy, one of those little bottles of wine that's just like a glass. I'd buy one of those, down that, hide it. And then when my husband came home, would go, oh, yes, let's have this bottle of wine. I haven't had anything. And so he found out and basically asked me to leave. And I woke up one morning to a text message saying, I can't do this anymore. You need to leave. And we've got 2 young kids. And I just thought, what have I done? I loved drinking and I loved getting drunk. Didn't love it more than my husband. Didn't love it more than my 2 girls. Didn't love it more than the house that I built. But I was still putting it before them. And I just thought, I've got to change. So I said to Chris, right, that's it. I'm done now. I'm done. And went to an AA meeting. which is one of the scariest things I've ever done in my life. But they were lovely there. They were really nice. It didn't quite fit with what I kind of thought, but they were really supportive, and that was what I needed. Other people to talk to who knew what I was going through. And I thought, right, I'm going to keep going back now every week. This is going to be great. And 3 days later, we went into our lockdown with COVID, so I couldn't go back. And at that point, I didn't know that they were doing those things online or anything. So I was just in the house with my husband, who hated me at that point because of my drinking. My kids were climbing the walls because we couldn't leave the house, and I was trying to not drink, and it was so hard. I actually did the This Naked Mind 30 days, which was absolutely life-changing for me. So thank you, Scott. Fangirling a bit at the moment that I'm sat on a panel next to you. But yeah, so just slowly got through it. It's cliche, but just took it one day at a time, and just woke up every day and thought, okay, I'm not drinking today, and let's see how I get on tomorrow.
So you had a very clear vision of what you might lose if you didn't get it under control.
Absolutely. And at that point, I didn't have an intention to quit forever. I think that's what I'd done in the past when I tried to set myself time limits, where I was always looking for this thing to reach. Oh, once I get to 30 days, then I'll get drunk to celebrate the fact that I did 30 days without drinking. And I'd always set myself these goals, whereas this time I didn't. I was just like, right, I'm just stopping drinking for a while. I don't know how long it's going to be. I just feel like I'll know when I get there. And slowly, through educating myself, through doing This Naked Mind, through just reading quit literature books, taking in as much information as I can, I think that's what was different, was that I educated myself so much more about the impact that alcohol has on me and us mentally, physically. And I just started to change and just think, I don't know why I'm actually drinking this. When all the evidence is laid out in front of you of what it actually does to you, you just think, why am I doing this? This isn't actually that good.
So I hear two very powerful things that you say there, which is, one is that you were very clear what would happen if things stayed the same. And so I like that decision balance sheet exercise, which you can do for any behaviour change, where you weigh up what are the benefits of staying the same, what are the downsides of staying the same, what are the benefits of change, what are the downsides of change. For you, there was a really clear balance tip there that if things stayed the same, you would lose some things that were very valuable to you. And then the second is you immersed yourself in lots and lots of information and just went everywhere and hoovered it up. And again, that learning that you do and the bits that you pick up from everywhere are really, really important. So no one should feel that there's one size fits all method to changing. It's about, taking in everything and reading as much as you can and doing podcasts and festivals and all sorts of stuff. So Lindsey, so you've been, you're alcohol free, aren't you? Oh, Lindsey, you're on mute. There you go.
Yes, very much alcohol free.
And so I first met you years ago at one of our workshops. But tell us a little bit about that journey for you and about those the life that you wanted to lead, and where that works for the clients that you work with now. What do you see that's the most powerful?
For me, it wasn't so much about the life that I wanted to lead. I was physically addicted as well, so I was very ill. I had to stop drinking. So for me, with the clients, it is very much getting them to imagine the life that they want to lead. A lot of them have got to the point where they're not enjoying alcohol at all. They have recognized that they are using it as a crutch. They're using it as a stress relief. They're using it because they're bored. They might be using it because they're in pain. A lot of them are going through hormonal upheavals and are experiencing huge amounts of anxiety because of their hormonal changes or depression. And self-medicating. So we talk a lot about getting out of that and changing how, envisioning how they want to live the last third of their lives and how well they want to do it. Because I think what was key for me is that when I stopped drinking, I was 48, about 47 or 48, so 6 years ago. And I'd never felt that well in my life after a couple of years after I'd stopped drinking. Emotionally, physically, mentally, I'd never ever been that well, never as fit. I couldn't believe it. And that is really what I try and share with the women. And I'm working with more men now as well, that it can be done. You can completely change your life.
Yeah, because you were physically addicted, which is another thing entirely. And if anyone at all is worried that they may be physically addicted, then you must taper your drinking and get some help with that, because suddenly stopping this month is not right for you.
No.
Lindsey, you're a great advert for the fact that you can get there, even if you've come from being physically addicted. But also I hear that you had like the epiphany that you're fitter than you've ever been. It's probably not something you expected at the beginning because you were in such a low place, but suddenly is one of the many things that keeps you where you are, because you enjoy that feeling of feeling great.
Yeah, absolutely. And because you're feeling well, you want to do more activities, you want to try more things. It's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah. Weekends are so long now, aren't they? Who knew?
Yeah. Not enough time actually anymore. There used to be a lot of time in the beginning, and now there's so many things that I want to do. And I just think it's such a gift to be in your 50s and to feel that way. I think it's brilliant.
Yeah, you're right, because that transition from drinking to not drinking can often feel quite boring, because you used to fill lots of time with drinking, and you now need to find new things to go in. But I can assure you, everybody, you will find lots of things to fill your time with, even if it does feel uncomfortable now. Scott spends all of his time talking to people, but yes. You went through many attempts to change your drinking as well, didn't you, Scott?
Yeah, I mean, it was years for me. It was about 6 years of trying to do it. And the thing that I kept coming back to in all of those different attempts was I would try it and then I would fail. So I'd put these like really clear, like, this is success, which I like to say, like, the only way you know if you're successful of never drinking again is when you're dead. So like, but that's how I was approaching it, right? It was like I was setting myself up for failure. And so I had spent so many nights and days and like days after drinking just beating myself up. And it really wasn't until I started to, like Ruari was saying, like really look at like, who do I want to be? But then also approach it with a sense of curiosity of like, I don't know all of those things. So like, if you were to go back to me on my last day of drinking and say, Scott, what do you want to be? What's your life going to be like? I'd have an idea, but there've been a lot of surprises along the way. And I really found that sense of curiosity of like, oh yeah, I actually don't mind this. Like, wow, a night at home, because I have so much extra time now, just sitting here reading, well, I'm like really enjoying it. It wasn't something I was looking forward to, but being able to sort of live in that curiosity going forward is what makes this going alcohol-free process not only fun, but like enjoyable for the long term.
Yeah, absolutely. And I still think it's a gift that's still giving for me. I have some highs and lows, just like anybody does in life, but none of it I could do if it wasn't from a firm base of not being drunk.
Yes.
All the time.
Or hungover. I think of the number of like it's it's Friday for us. We're not talking to anyone in Australia. I'm always careful not to be like what day it is, but for me it's Friday right now, and like tomorrow morning I'm gonna get up and I'm gonna go out to breakfast with my son. That would have been a very different experience when I was still drinking, right? I'd be grouchy, but like now I'm a morning person. I like getting up and going out. Like just the experience of life is so much different.
Cool. And Chris, what about you? I bet in a million years you didn't think you'd end up running an alcohol-free bar, right? That wasn't your plan, right?
Not at all. I didn't think I would live to see 35. I got sober when I was 23 years old. And so in February, I will celebrate 15 years of sobriety.
Oh, he's winning.
Amazing. Definitely winning. Way to go.
One day, look, is really one day at a time. But what convinced me to stay sober was this community that I found. I started drinking because I was really a kind of awkward kid. I'm still socially awkward. which is ironic because I own a bar. But like I was always an anxious, shy, nervous, kid, always the wallflower. And when I found alcohol, it was the thing that helped me to feel like I belonged. It helped me to feel like I could have fun. I was cool. I was able to, be someone else. And so when alcohol became a problem for me, it was as if the world was asking me to give up the thing that made me feel like I belonged, like I was social, like I could be fun. If you're asking me to give up my life at 23, and I was just terrified that I would never find friends again. I would never go on vacations again. I would never dance in the middle of a club. Like I was so worried that I would never have any of those experiences. And what I found was once I stopped drinking, let me back up. Before I stopped drinking, I was lonely. I was going to the bar and I was absolutely alone. I could be in a room full of people and feel like I was all alone. And I was just drinking, not talking to anyone. I was doing the exact same thing I was doing before I found alcohol. I became a wallflower, just a drunk wallflower. And so once I got into a program of recovery, I found community. I found friends, real friends, and we talked about things. And it changed what I believed was possible for my life. I wanted to live to 25. I wanted to grow old. I wanted to go on vacations, and I've done all those things and more beyond my wildest dreams. At 23, I couldn't have conceived being a dad, having a business, being on this call. Like there was just so much that I couldn't even perceive at that starting point. And I believe that's true for everyone that chooses to stop drinking or drink less. It's like you have no idea just how big the rest of the world is once you drop the drink.
Yeah, it's amazing that what you're all describing is guess what? You can have a bigger vision for your life. You can make it happen. But more importantly, is the sky doesn't fall in. Those things that you might worry about at the beginning, like not being able to go clubbing and things like that, actually do become possible if you want to do them. They might take a little while to get there and to feel comfortable in those situations, but you can get there. So and actually hearing this is a great reassurance for anybody at the start of the process of changing their drinking right now. Chris, you talked a bit about the fact that you began to feel quite good quite quickly, and as did Lindsey, and Scott talks about taking that picture of yourself at the beginning. There's clearly often people want to monitor their changing drinking by how much weight they lose really quickly, and are often very disappointed that isn't the immediate outcome. There are other things that you can monitor that you can see quite quickly if you choose to look. What would you, Scott, what things do you think people should start looking at so they can begin to see progress even when it's feeling really hard?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I totally second you on the weight thing. I hear that all the time. Like, oh, I really thought I was going to lose more weight. There's a few things that I think are more apparent sooner. One is just how you feel physically. And I will say, for some people, there's some sleep disturbances. And so you might feel kind of tired. You might feel kind of run down. But people start to realize really quickly, wow, I just feel so much better. That's I'd say one of the top three. Another one would be what your thoughts are like. What are your emotions as you're going through this? And, same thing, there's a roller coaster, right? That first little while, you're kind of learning how to deal with work and home and family without alcohol. But what I see over and over with people in our programs is they start to have this leveling off of feeling good, as opposed to, where is your emotional floor? Is it, or your sort of emotional state? Is it higher or lower than it used to be? And it's very often those things of like, oh, every day now is more enjoyable for me. Or I've even had someone said to me one time, every day is less shitty than it was before. And I'm like, that's great, right? Like that's progress. And I don't want to keep beating on this theme of curiosity, but one of the things that I find regularly is, again, when people lay out like, hey, this is the vision of where I'm going to go, that's awesome. but be open to what other things might be. So paying attention to how you feel physically and how you feel emotionally, even if it is a roller coaster, you start to realize over time, those things both start trending up.
Lindsey, you might know this about food choices as well, because food choices get better. I have to tell you, I've not had a Kentucky Fried Chicken for 9.5 years either. That used to be my massive hangover food. So, you know, it could be just as small as making some slightly better choices around your nutrition, right?
Absolutely. I think we do make bad food choices when we are drinking. Generally eats a lot of carbs and junk food. Is just the way it goes. But yeah, as soon as you start eating a little bit better and your gut starts healing, while we're drinking, our gut is getting so damaged, and we start absorbing the nutrients from the food that we're eating, we will start to feel better.
And do you think there are some supplements, because people ask this question all the time about different supplements they can take when they're giving up drinking to help them feel better and help them through the process? Or is it just about making better, thinking through your diet when you're changing your drinking?
I would start off with diet in the early days, especially because, as I say, depending on how much you've been drinking, your gut can be in quite a mess. So you might not be absorbing any supplements anyway. So you might be wasting your money there. So first, always go for food, lots of protein, lots of healthy fats, lots of fruit and veg. And then I would say after a couple of weeks, then start taking the supplements. Or you can do things like have magnesium bars or spray magnesium on you, because magnesium is something that's really helpful. It's very relaxing, and alcohol does deplete it. So magnesium, B vitamins, zinc, those are probably the 4 key ones, and also omega-3 fatty acids.
Yeah, so the B vitamins, everyone, that's your Marmite, just so you know.
Yeah.
And also I drank water like my body was going, you know what, you've not really hydrated for the last 20 years. So, you know, get it in there. And I was like drinking and chugging the water. So definitely hydrate perfectly. Ruari, what did you notice early on? What were the things that you could begin to measure your progress by?
Well, I was just going to take a small diversion, if you don't mind, because a number of months ago, I posted into the community saying, what one reason would you give somebody to change their relationship in 2021? And there were over 500 comments, I think, within 24 hours. And then we stripped out all the duplicates and looked at it, and we ended up with nearly 200 unique reasons why you should. And what I'm just going to do is rattle through a couple of these, because I just don't think people realize like how wide ranging this is. And if you could imagine that this was a pill, right? And they were standing in front of you and they were going to prescribe you this pill, and they were going to say all of these benefits are very likely to come to you. You're 100% guaranteed to get some of these. You could get all of them. All you got to do is take this every day for 30 days. And you can't drink alcohol while you're doing it, right? So my blood pressure dropped, resting heart rate dropped, blood sugar dropped, weight loss, so many more hours in the day, glowing skin, have better relationships, have your life back, energy, great sleep, reduced anxiety, improve your mental health, contentment, happiness, focus, resilience, not missing putting your child to bed, clear head, more money, start living the life you always wanted, to allow more productivity, write a book, to not talk utter shite to your whole contacts list. I like that one. To have mental clarity every day, being present and calm, role model for your kids, to be able to jump in your car and drive anytime, having control of your life with its inevitable ups and downs, business clarity and success, gain real confidence, increase, I could keep going on and on, right? It's, you know, clearer skin, hair improved, etc.
But those are measurable. So actually coming back to Scott's point at the beginning, if you begin to say these are the things that I'd hope to see, or if you very early on begin to see some things that are changing, begin to take a note. I actually took my blood sugar levels when I first gave up drinking. That was one of them. The other was my face. But I also managed money so much better. In fact, so much better that I halved my salary and have never actually gone back to, but that's another story entirely. I think I'm failing somewhere on the line. But to be able to live on far less money because I wasn't making really bad decisions, again, another thing that you can monitor. And these are all things that you can take track of during your first month so that you can see what progress you're making, because sometimes it can feel really hard. What about you, Rhian?
One of the big ones in here is I could look at myself in the mirror again. And I think that just says so much, doesn't it? It's like really strong. You can't measure that. but it's all the feeling of sense of self and the view of yourself and how you look in the mirror, but how you feel in the mirror is so powerful.
And Rhian, because we've all got lots more years under our belt than you, and you're the one who's managed to do this during lockdowns, this must still feel very real for you. Are you still measuring things? What's important for you?
I'm not so much measuring things anymore. Particularly at the beginning, for me, the thing that struck me most, because I didn't lose weight, I just ate my weight in cake just to make up for the sugar. So I certainly didn't lose any. But for me, in the mornings, not waking up and feeling like shit. Like, I didn't feel horrific in the mornings, just felt below par. Just when you wake up. That was every day for me. Every day, whether I'd had one glass of wine in the evening or whether I'd had a bottle of wine in the evening, I'd wake up and just feel tired, grumpy, bit of a bad headache. And I genuinely did not think that was because of the drinking. Whereas after about a week of not drinking, my sleep was getting much better. And I'd wake up and be like, oh, right, what are we doing today then? And Chris was like, what the hell is wrong with you? And I was like, no, what are we doing? It's 9 o'clock. We haven't left the house yet. And you just have so much more energy. I thought everyone woke up feeling every day. I thought that was normal.
At 3 months alcohol-free, I was volunteering on the Olympics. And I could tell you, I thought I was an athlete by that point.
You feel invincible.
It's like people, we're athletes. That's how I felt at 3 months. The energy I had. Chris, what things did you track really, or notice early on that you were able to pinpoint?
I think for me it was definitely sleep. Sleep is something that I've always struggled with. Again, even before alcohol ever became part of the story. And so, yeah, tracking better sleep. Obviously, I was able to go back to school, and that was a huge thing for me because I had totally dropped out of college because of my alcohol use. So, I mean, those were the two things that really were the first kind of encouraging signs, and then better relationships with people. And again, my whole thing was connection. My whole thing was feeling like I needed friends and wanted friends. And so once my friends found out that I was not drinking and they supported me, my guy friends supported my decision to not drink. And it was wonderful. That to me was one of the biggest advantages, because I never thought that would be possible, that my friends would support, my drinking buddies would support my decision to not drink. So yeah, those out of the gate, those were the three things that definitely just impacted me the most.
I think it's that thing that everyone should think about. You've got a month coming up, whether you're moderating or going alcohol free, you will notice some changes. Begin to write down the changes that you think you might see and begin to track those over the month. Even if it's just a little bit of a tick to say your mood's better, or you woke up in the morning feeling fresh, or, because otherwise you're focusing on what you're taking away, but doing that means that you can focus on what you're gaining. Rhian, you talked about the cake, and I think this is an important topic because people's cravings for sugar do go up after they've taken alcohol out of their diet, and all of us are going, yeah, that happens, and for some of us it's never stopped. Lindsey, is there a reason for that? Tell us.
It's partly to do with the fact that our blood sugar levels are so dysregulated from all the alcohol we've been drinking, and our livers need a bit of support. And it's also down to our neurotransmitters as well. So we've been propping up our dopamine levels with alcohol, and then all of a sudden they've kind of flatlined maybe a bit, our dopamine receptors, and sugar gives us a dopamine hit. So there's that, but it's also trying to give us a lift for our blood sugar levels, because they are generally just completely dysregulated. And then the sugar gives us that same, well, not the same, but a similar lift to what we were getting from the alcohol, and then we want more of it, and then we want more of it. So it's pretty much working on a similar basis that alcohol did, but in a much milder way, and obviously not nearly as toxic.
I say to people in the early stages that don't worry about sugar. Sugar's your friend. You can deal with the sugar later. If it's today, if the decision's between having a drink of alcohol or eating a chocolate bar, just have the chocolate bar. It won't stop you waking up tomorrow morning. Is that the same, Scott? You're like, yep.
Yeah, it's same exact thing. I always, Annie talks about, she used to carry gummy bears with her everywhere she went. I loved Altoids. I would literally just like eat them all day long. And it's something that like you can deal with eventually. But yeah, I find that, when I work with people, they tend to have an easier time just saying like, hey, this is here, it's temporary, and I'm going to do it for now. And that's okay. And the thing is to keep bringing your focus back to the fact that like, hey, there's another day. If you're using a counter like Rhian suggested, like, yeah, I ate maybe more than my fair share of Altoids yesterday, but you know what else happened? Like I got another day, and having that focus is so key.
I'm going to add in a marginal gain in there, and that is just 70% plus chocolate.
Yes.
which is basically good for you. Ignore the fact that there's any sugar in it, and it's like in the middle between being really devious, and it's not quite gummy bears, but still giving you that dopamine hit.
I think
you're good to the world as well. Go on, Rhian.
Sorry, Laura. Well, I was going to say one thing that's really good, not just about cake, about like the sweet sort of things, if that is what you're craving, is it's really important to have something to look forward to every evening. Because every evening, particularly in the early days, I'd look forward to my wine. I'd look forward to my glass of wine. So knowing that I had a really nice piece of cake, or a really nice bar of chocolate, or a really nice new alcohol-free beer that I hadn't tried yet, knowing that I had something there to look forward to was really important to me and made me feel like I was missing out less. Because although my husband was sat having a beer, I was okay because I was trying a new alcohol-free beer, or I was trying a really lovely piece of cake, and I felt like I was still treating myself. So I think being kind to yourself and giving yourself a break as well, that you're not drinking alcohol for a month, that is flipping hard. It's really hard. So give yourself a break and give yourself something to treat yourself every evening. That was really important for me.
Yeah, and particularly if you've gone out and done something social, because that's such a hard pressure. Know that you've got something to go home to and go, well done. Here's another episode of my favourite box set, or and a hot chocolate. Make it so. So that leads me to my favourite sort of question. That's my stock at the end of all sorts of events. We're coming near to the end of time now, which is about what your favourite alcohol-free drink is. And it doesn't have to be an alcohol-free alternative of alcohol, just so you don't feel any pressure, because everybody's different. But Chris, you might have more than one suggestion, I think, as you are the expert in this area, right?
I am one of many experts across the world. Look, I am a big fan of all kinds of non-alcoholic drinks. You cannot go wrong. I know for a lot of people, alcohol-free beers, wines, and spirits are A-okay. But for a lot of people, it can be kind of triggering. And that's okay too. And I just want to make sure that we say that on the front here, that it's okay if club soda is really all you do and you just love a good club soda and lime. That's okay. Put a beautiful garnish in it and go and enjoy yourself. To Rhian's point, we use these drinks to mark time, to like mark the end of the day, to mark the start of the weekend, to watch football. We use these drinks, and so you can use these non-alcoholic beverages in much the same way. So yeah, I'm a big fan of all the beers. I love a good mocktail or alcohol-free cocktail. My favorite is ginger beer, lime, and a rosemary simple syrup. You can make a rosemary simple syrup at home on your own, and it's just a beautiful drink to garnish with the rosemary. Like, you can do really simple yet delicious and fresh drinks with some sugar, and it just hits all those things that we've been talking about.
That's brilliant. And yeah, marking that change of time and day from work mode to home mode is actually one thing. And it could be that hot chocolate, particularly in the winter, might be the drink that does that for you. So yeah, it could, but make it your own. Make it something special.
Yes.
Lindsey, what do you drink? What's your favourite thing?
I've suddenly rediscovered a spicy tomato juice when I go out. I'd forgotten about that, which I love because I'm not a big fan. I like a very occasional alcohol-free beer. Like I was saying earlier, the alcohol-free wine I find terribly triggering. I just can't even go there because wine was my drink. But alcohol-free beer is great and lovely for hot weather. And also it's nice when you're socializing because people don't often pick up that it's alcohol-free and they leave you alone. So yeah, but otherwise water is my drink as well. But yeah, the spicy tomato juice, fantastic.
Oh, so nutritionally good there, Lindsey. It's what we'd expect. Scott, what's your tipple?
Well, it's funny. Chris mentioned club soda or seltzer, as we call it here. Like that was huge for me. I mean, I have more empty cans now than I did when I was drinking. I love it. There's lots of different flavors. For me, and it was a surprise. I was not expecting this. For me, in terms of that marking time, I used to come home and pour a glass of scotch. I found myself coming home, walking over to the fridge and cracking open a seltzer. It was amazing. And there was so much variety there just in terms of the different flavors. And, the flavors were all natural. So it wasn't like super sugary or anything like that. It was a total game changer for me and still is to this day.
For anyone in Britain, I've now just for the first time learned the difference between fizzy water and club soda. And there's bicarbonate of soda in a club soda. If you ask, because we don't have that here really. So if you ask for soda, you get fizzy water out of the gun. And so this has been like a revelation to me that there is actually something different.
I did not realize that. That's good to know.
So I now I'm looking for proper club sodas here in the UK, of which there aren't very many. I think Folkengton's now do one.
Schweppes, I thought, always did a soda water.
Who did that?
Schweppes, I always thought, did a soda water in the little bottles.
They would. You never get it in a pub though. A very, very
maybe just in a pub in the Isle of Mull.
That had bicarb of soda in it, but it's not a very clearly defined thing here. And if you ask for lime and soda, you get fizzy water with lime. So there we are. That's my revelation of the week. Things that you probably should have known but never did. Yeah. What you're at a party tonight, aren't you?
I am. It's my brother's 40th birthday, so I am drinking alcohol-free gin and tonic at the moment. But my favourite drink is flavoured tonic water. Like, it sounds really ridiculous, but I genuinely didn't realise that people drank tonic water by itself. I thought it simply existed to be mixed with vodka or gin or whatever it was. And then someone had mentioned it and I thought, oh, I'll just try it then. It's lush. It's so nice. And there's so many different flavours. Black olive and rosemary is my favourite.
It's amazing really, because really gin is a flavouring for tonic. And so you can flavour tonic in other ways with alcohol-free gin or bitters or even a bit of cordial.
Or raspberries or blueberries.
Who knew? The myths we create when we're drinking, eh? Oh, well, I can only with this thing because that's what it's designed for. Bollocks! It's just an excuse, isn't it? It's hilarious. Ruari, what's your tip of choice there in Mallorca?
There are lots of myths that need to be busted, but everyone has to work that out on their own journey, don't they? And they're like, they believe the myths entirely, and then they take a break from alcohol and are like, I can't believe I believed that shit. Anyway, we'll welcome you to the club soon when you realize it yourself. But I was a pint drinker, so I love an alcohol-free beer, and there's some really great ones out there. I can't wait to try Guinness Zero. Haven't tried it yet. Can't wait. And I love the whiskey. I built a brand. I mean, my whole career was really built around the fact that I knew my whiskeys. I always had a whiskey after lunch or dinner and talked about them and blah, blah, blah. So I really understood whiskey, and Lyre's created an amazing American malt, which is so surprising in taste and aftertaste, like you're like, what the hell? It's really, you know, of course, some of these drinks have a bit further to go, but if we are doing that already, I can't wait to see what comes out in the next coming years when it comes to things like whiskeys and, you know, other spirits. So yeah.
I have to add on the liars thing. First of all, I'm going to have one of those after this.
Awesome.
Second, when I bought it, I opened it up. I had to relook at the label. Just the smell. I was so, compared to other brands I had tried, it's amazing. Yeah,
they've really got that bourbon smell and feel to it. So yeah, and even the kick at the end, it's impressive. So shout out to Lars.
I'm a big kombucha nut, but also I never drank tea or coffee. But I discovered single estate loose leaf tea, and I've become like the biggest tea snob in the world. I spend like 60 quid a month on very, very expensive teas from around the world, and I've got very particular dealers for each tea as well. That's how that works for me. And I love a 3 spirits as well. First lockdown, the nightcap was amazing. I'm loving. Thank you for Lindsey's cap for their
talking about 3 spirits, like the idea of that, like we're going to try and find some kind of herbal high here. I think that's what's exciting about the category. And we're not there yet, right? But today they announced the first, I'm going off topic, the first research into psilocybin and depression and legally allowed. And as we change our perception of what the world's most harmful drugs are and what really creates damage and things like that, I think we're going to start to see a change. Cannabis beer does exist in the world, but not just that, investigating other ways. Professor David Nutt, isn't it? He's now been super focused on Alcosynth. I ordered his bottle about a month and a half ago. It still hasn't arrived. I know I'm in Spain, but what's it called, Laura? What's his bottle called?
I don't know. There's stuff going on. They're working. I haven't looked at what's the latest. So.
Yeah, so it's not Alcosynth, but again, it's a manufactured.
What was Sense Spirits on active herbs and not Alcosynth anymore, but I can't quite remember. There's stuff going on.
It's fascinating. What's going to happen over the coming years? It's really interesting.
But what's most interesting about this, and some people will know that we spend a lot of time talking at trade shows to encourage pubs and bars to stock more, but we're only at the very beginning of what's going to be available drink-wise. Let's not even call them alcohol-free drinks, because some of them are just about drinks without alcohol in. And there's, with people moderating their drinking and people going alcohol-free, in the UK alone, that's a 25 million people market. So suddenly there are enough of us who want to drink something interesting that isn't alcoholic. And that's where all of that's coming from. So as I always say, mindful drinking is a wide community of people drinking in lots of different ways, but mindfully for lots of different reasons. And together we've all got overlapping needs in terms of what we want from a social experience. And it's those overlapping needs that mean we'll get more products in this space. And that's what's really great. Be that being a really good elderflower cordial that's at an event, all the way through to a new alcohol-free spirit. But anyway, we could talk about that all separately. Like Chris could do a whole session on that and all of that stuff. But what I want to do is just to thank you all. You have all been really inspirational. You've all got your own stories to share, but you've also shown very clearly that the sky doesn't fall in when you change your drinking, that there are ways to get through that, and there are tools and methods that you can employ over the next month that will help you keep motivated and get there. So I'd just like to thank you all for your time this evening, and I know many of you will be watching this again on the festival channel, but thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.